Hello everyone, Meisterang here, and I'm doing a tier list for the black cards in Shotgun King, the Final Checkmate. Okay, whatever. So yeah, I'm just gonna evaluate all the black cards and put them in S tier if they're always or almost always really good, A or B tier if they're usually very good or sometimes very good, C if they're kind of filler, and D if there's like useless or detrimental. Okay, so let's start with a piercing truth. I'm just doing these in alphabetical order. Um, oh yeah, and also I'm going to be rating these cards for rank 15 play because I don't know if you think of some, if you see something that works in rank 15, it'll work at lower ranks. And I'm also going to evaluate cards individually as much as possible. I'm not going to take into account synergies too much. Okay, so let's get started then. A piercing truth is 30% piercing, and I would say that it's useful. It helps you clear out boards that have a lot of pawns. Like you hit a pawn and then you hit the piece behind the pawn. And the amount of value you get out of it is sort of unpredictable. It doesn't help you against a piece that you don't like. It doesn't help you if like a queen or rook approaches from a spot where you weren't able to chip it down beforehand. Rooks you can usually chip down a little bit, but they have so much health on rank 15 that usually you don't get a lot of value out of that. But any damage that you can do to a queen, rook, or bishop with this helps a lot. Um, Although it's not really consistent enough, I think in most situations, like unless you have a lot of pieces on the board, you're not going to get too much value out of this. I'm going to put it in C tier. Okay. Next up is August Presence, which if you, I mean, it sometimes makes enemy pieces a lot more unpredictable because a lot of the time what you do on rank 15 is because your fire arc is so bad on rank 15, you'll want to bait one piece into approaching you and then, and then shoot it for full damage because you can't shoot it for full damage unless it's right next to you. Um, so August Presence kind of stops that from being able to happen. And yeah, as a result, I mean, in exchange, you get some protection from rooks and queens, like destroying you on the back rank, or like if you're at the edge of the board and a queen just like approaches you and you don't have enough damage to one shot a queen, then having August Presence will save you. But since your accuracy is always so bad on rank 15, I think this is kind of detrimental unless you have, I don't know, high focus. You need a high range stat. You would need high focus for this to be good. And there are a few anti synergies as well. If you have blade or if you have taunting hop, then it's not very exciting. But ignoring those, okay, so it's really good if you have the moat. Yeah, this definitely moves up to probably like I don't know A tier if you have the moat because you can just use it to. I mean, yeah, you can. The moat will stop you from getting attacked from a distance, and August Presence will stop you from getting attacked up close. So you're pretty much like immune from, right in front of you. Anyway, let's just keep going. Black Mist, I would say I would say this is A tier probably because it's very powerful and yet if you lose one range when you get this. So if your range stat is low, I think if your range stat is 3 or less, then your damage per turn is going to go way down to the extent where you're just going to need the extra life and then maybe you might be in a worse spot than when you started. Um, and it's like even in the best case scenario when you have a lot of range, I would say it's not S tier because you like the S tier cards are, things that give you. extra turns, things that give you more damage. Is more damage is super important in this game. I would say the Victoria is the best shotgun in the game because you can one-shot bishops and knights. And yeah, it's like if you had the choice between Black Mist and a damage increase, the damage increase would almost always be better. Um, but yeah, if you have four range, I would say Black Mist is really good. And if you have five or more range, then you almost don't care about the downside. But yeah, A tier, it's a good card. Okay. Now Black Plague. This is hard to evaluate. A lot of the cards that have multiple conditions to acquire them, or that are generally difficult to acquire, are hard to evaluate because I haven't played a lot with these cards. I would say, okay, so Black Plague, does one damage per turn. And if you think about your damage per round with like the Victoria, for example, which has the highest damage per round, or does it? The Victoria, if you shoot, then you reload, and then you regenerate ammo, you've done 5 damage over 3 turns, which is 1 2/3 damage per turn. So let's just say you're playing with Victoria because I think it's the best gun. Then Black Plague will do a little over half as much damage as your shotgun, which you could kind of compare that to +2 firepower. Because if you do 5 damage per shot and you increase your damage by 2 per turn, that's a 40% increase. And Black Plague is kinda like actually Black Plague is more than a 50% increase. The math is kind of weird, but this gives a lot of damage, and the downside is you don't get to choose where the damage goes. But you know, I still think it's great. Um, I think because it's inconsistent, I'm going to put it in A tier. So this also gives you -1 range, but because you have to take Crow's Blessing to get it, your range stat is going to be fine. You're barely going to notice the range penalty. Well, I don't know. Depends on what kind of build you're going for. If you're going for a sniper build and you lose 1 range, it's like kind of sad, but whatever. Um, Bloodless Coup, that's hard to put on a tier list because I'm trying to not take into account synergies as much as possible, or like not weigh them too heavily. And it's like Bloodless Coup, you would want to have a build with a lot of pawns and few pieces, and then you can go after the king pretty quickly. Um, so I think in most builds this would be kind of marginal value. You would need you would need some way to get over the pawns. Like if there are too many pawns, then it's going to be very hard to get past them. Like maybe there'll be one or two squares as the pawns are moving unevenly that you could get in, but then if like a bishop or a like if a bishop or a knight is like staring at those squares, then it's going to be hard to take advantage of this. So I'm going to say this is C tier because it's hard to use unless you have a good build for it. And you don't want to have too few pawns with Bloodless Coup because then like what's the point of the card? And you don't want to have too many. Like if you have more than an entire row of pawns, then it gets very difficult to get past the pawns without killing one of them. So yeah, I don't know. C tier. Okay, blunderbuss. It's +2 damage, and it gives you a big fire arc increase, which means it's great for shooting a piece that approaches you orthogonally. Like if a piece is 1 square away from you orthogonally, this blunderbuss damage boost will give you the damage you need to kill it. Well, okay, let's say you have the Solomon and you get the +2 damage, then you go from not being able to one-shot knights, bishops, and queens to being able to one-shot bishops and queens. Bishops, knights, and queens. Which, yeah, obviously that's really good. I don't need to explain why being able to one-shot pieces is so important in this game. Um, and with the Victoria, it's like the same thing, except it's less important to have this because It only hits a breakpoint on queens, but it's still really good. It helps you immensely against adjacent pieces, against orthogonally adjacent pieces, and it also just helps you with your wave clear. Um, yeah, like if you just want to shoot down a whole bunch of pawns, there's like a lot of pieces on the board in front of you, and there's like even if you don't hit the target in front of you, you're going to hit something. I'm going to put this in S tier. This is kind of making me reevaluate Black Plague. I would say Black Plague is a little less useful than Blunderbuss. Okay, so I think Bushido is one of those cards that doesn't really cut it if you don't have any other blade. Like if you're playing with the Makeda, you should take this. This would go in S tier for sure. Um, if you've taken Nightbane, then you want to take Bushido for sure. Um, it's like if you don't have enough damage to one shot something, then you can shoot it and then use your blade on it, and that's that costs you one turn, which is the same number of turns that it would take to just shoot something if you had enough damage. Like if you're next to a bishop and you do 4 damage and you shoot the bishop and it's down to 1, then you blade it. But like against queens, that doesn't work because they'll just attack you against yeah. So against anything that's like this kind of ruins your entire like the main thing that you want to do, which is one shot, be able to one shot pieces with your shotgun. Maybe if you have, maybe if you have, like if you're in the beginning of your run, you can take this early and then just kind of hope that you'll get some more support for it. I don't know. I think in rank 15, it's not good enough unless you're using the Makeda or you get Nightbane. So I'm going to put it in D tier, even though it's incredibly powerful. Like, I don't know. It's like S tier if you have any sort of synergy with it, and it's D tier if you don't. So, I don't know. Okay, caltrops is probably my first thought is to put it in B tier. Like it's good. Um, it's better in those builds where you have a lot of firepower, but you have a lot of fire arc. Like I guess it's a good synergy with blunderbuss because you just shoot like the entire row of pawns, and then yeah, and then that buys you a lot of turns because they're slowed down. All enemy pieces that are injured get -2 speed. Um, but I don't think like I think you need a build that makes it good. And yeah, typically like it's not going to be amazing. There's a decent number of white cards that give reinforcement. So if you get the -50% or +50% reinforcement timer value, then it's great. I'm gonna put this in B tier because delaying enemies is really good. Okay, cannon fodder. Cannon fodder is, it's pretty good if you have. It's better the more soul slots you have. Obviously, if you only have one soul slot, then it's like kind of like it's good if it gives you the damage you need to one shot a queen, for example. Like if you're playing, the queen has 6 health. You probably can't one shot the queen unless you got some good damage cards. And in that case, if you can plan around, if you can plan around having a pawn soul available when the queen's coming into attack, like then it's really good. And it's like if it's the only way that you can get enough damage to one shot something, then it's good. And I would say it's kind of like it's just not great if you have one soul slot. But if you have more than one soul slot, then it's a lot less risky to try to use this because you have one soul slot that has like a bishop soul or a queen soul or something, and then the other slot is sort of your pawn soul slot. I think if you don't have any synergy, this would be B tier. If you only have one soul slot, you can make it good, and you can plan when a queen is going to approach. It takes a lot of planning to figure out multiple turns in advance, how to, shoot upon, reload, have the queen approach while nothing else is approaching. But yeah, I would say in a vacuum, this is a B tier card. The annoying thing about cannon fodder is if you shoot down multiple pieces with a single action, including a pawn and something that's not a pawn, then you might not get your bishop soul or knight soul or whatever the heck you wanted. Okay. Church organ. I mean, it's +2 ammo max and +2 shells. You obviously would take this if you had the chance to take it. The problem is you have to take one of the most dangerous cards in the game to get this, especially in rank 15. What was it called? It was Cathedral. Yeah, you'd have to take Cathedral, and Cathedral is very dangerous, but if you've taken Cathedral for some reason and you see this, you should definitely take it. Okay, Corner Despot. This, I would say, goes in A tier probably. It has synergies with long range. Mm, it's either A or S. It's hard to evaluate. I would say maybe it's in the top of A, or it could be in the bottom of S. I don't know. But this will most likely give you the break point that you need to one-shot a queen, which is very important. And if you're not playing with the Victoria, then it will also let you one-shot bishops and knights. Um, yeah, if you don't have a lot of range, then it's not great. And if you do have a lot of range, then you could even just start shooting on turn one. Or if you have a bishop soul, you can use it to move to one edge of the board and start shooting from there. And it's not that hard to get a bishop soul at the end of the round. At the end of the previous round, you just, bishop soul turn one and start shooting. Um, unless that would get you discovered checked, in which case you might have to move a square away. I don't know, but I would say actually I'm gonna put it in S because of how important damage is. Okay, courteous jousting I would say is an S tier. On rank 15 you start with two knights, I believe. You start with two knights. So unless you're removing a lot of knights, or unless you've removed at least one knight, you're going to get at least two free turns out of this, and you get an increase to your accuracy. And in rank 15, you can be very close to being able to get guaranteed full damage on an adjacent piece, on a diagonally adjacent piece. Like if there's a bishop that's attacking you from one space away, and you're playing with the Solomon, you might have to just run away from the bishop because you have exactly enough damage to kill it, but your fire arc just slightly is too wide to get a guaranteed kill. And in that case, that's a big hit to your action economy. But with a little bit of accuracy, it helps a lot. It very easily could make the difference between being able to being able to do full damage to a diagonally adjacent piece and not. And also in general, accuracy is pretty good. Okay, Crow's Blessing. I would say this is. I think when I started this, I would have put it in B tier, but I think it should go. No, it definitely goes in B tier. Like range is good, but it's not. It can't be the focus of your strategy. You need to have damage first. You need to have survivability first. You need to have enough ammo. Like range is kind of secondary, but it's a good stat. You do increase your average damage per turn by increasing your range, and it has synergy with some stuff, and that's pretty cool. Okay, deep waters, I would say is S tier. If you have the moat, then you should look for opportunities to take deep waters as long as the white card associated with it is not too bad. Like you can body block it. Like a queen can just approach you and won't be able to do anything. So you can just shoot the queen for half her health and then shoot her again. Um, yeah, so it doesn't do anything to knights, of course, but knights. usually aren't the biggest concern you have. It's either pawns or it's queens and rooks. And yeah, it can be very difficult for enemy pieces to approach you. Normally, when you have the moat, it can be hard to get from one side of the moat to the other if you're getting overwhelmed. But with deep waters, that makes that easier. Okay, egotic maelstrom. I would say I would say this is it's either A tier or B tier. It's like getting that one extra damage after 10 turns. It can make a lot of difference, but by the time you get that one damage, you've already sort of had to figure out a plan for the round that might involve surviving against the queen. Like the queen can approach you very quickly, and the bishops and knights, like this doesn't really give you the best value because of how quickly you have to spring into action. I would say this is B tier. Uh, if you have no other damage options, then actually no, I'm gonna say this is A tier. One of the biggest threats in this game is pawns promoting and destroying you. And it takes about 30 turns for pawns to start promoting. So you have +3 firepower by that point. So any gun will have at least 6 damage by that point, and that's enough to one-shot a queen. And yeah, so I'm gonna say that's A tier. Okay, Elite Gem. Where does Elite Gem go? I think Elite Gem is A tier as well. I think that one extra point of ammo regen helps you a lot. It will make the difference between you just being stuck, not being able to shoot anything for many turns, and being able to clear out a wave of pawns. Well, okay, so let's think about this from the perspective of if you have the Victoria. You have if you want to fire 2 shells and then regenerate them. Okay, so what would you do? You would shoot, you would reload, you would shoot, you would reload, and then you would regenerate. So that's five. That's 5 turns to get 2 shots out. So you did 10 damage in 5 turns. So that increases your damage per turn from 1 2/3 to 2, which, I mean, I guess from that perspective, it's not super impressive. I don't know. If I compare it to just one firepower, um, well, okay, so one firepower, if I just have one firepower, then with the Victoria, I'm shooting once every 3 turns, which means that increases my damage per turn by 1/3. Oh, this is kind of the same. This is kind of comparable to one firepower in terms of the amount of value you can get out of your ammo pool. The one firepower is better because one-shotting stuff is important. But yeah, there are a lot of builds where you run out of ammo, so this would be pretty good. And having the extra range also helps. I would say 1 point of range makes a world of difference. If you're starting at 3 range, then 1 point of range will make a world of difference. If you're starting at 4 range, then 1 point of range will give you a little leeway to take stuff like black mist. What else reduces your range? Is it just black mist? Yeah, also black plague, but you don't need that if you're taking crow's blessing and whatever. What here does anything here reduce your range? Oh yeah, ritual dagger, but I don't like ritual dagger, and I usually wouldn't take it. Um, okay, I don't know. Maybe that aspect of the card isn't very important. It's like it's still good. Range is good, and so is ammo regen. Okay, scope. Uh, is also kind of hard to evaluate. If you want to just snipe stuff, start at the beginning of the round, or maybe like a few turns in. You're going to be sniping pawns first, which is going to make it easier for the rooks to get in there, which is a little bit of a trap. But I still think that the scope is good because if you don't have good accuracy, and if you have enough damage but you don't have good accuracy, then like a bishop will approach you, it'll be diagonally adjacent, and you'll be able to scope in, and then it'll approach and you'll shoot it. So, and also with pieces that are two spaces away orthogonally, it's it's also good with that situation too. It requires some planning, and you need to have multiple barrels for this to really be worthwhile. So I think if you have the Victoria, this probably like goes down a tier. But if you have the Solomon or any other gun, I guess, because the Victoria is the only one with one shell in the clip. So yeah, I would say this is B tier typically. Ermine belt is filler. Like getting 3 extra ammo helps with almost any build, but it doesn't really do enough. There are much better cards to get value out of your ammo. Like anything that increases the damage you do with each shot will give you better value than Ermine Belt. Anything that gives you extra turns will let you regenerate. Well, not anything. There's whatever. There are a lot of things that give you extra turns that would be better than this. It's just you should try to get more value out of your ammo, but it's fine. It's a very decent card. Actually, I'm gonna put this. This should either I don't know. This should be probably at the top of C tier. I'm gonna put it. Yeah, this is either B tier or C tier. It's kind of marginal. Okay, extra barrel. I would say this is either S tier or A tier. It's like it doesn't help you one shot anything, but it increases your damage per round by a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is S tier. Yeah, because you can reload all of your shells at once, being able to load more shells into your gun increases the amount of damage you can do per turn, and yeah, it makes it easier to, and as a result, makes it easier to just stop pieces in general. Um, I would, I don't know. Well, I'll consider whether there should be an S tier or A tier because you don't. It's not like necessary. It doesn't feel necessary like the firepower increases do, or the or like the extra turns. Okay, Fool Companion. This is hard to evaluate because I haven't played with it very much. Um, I think I don't think this is that good because okay, so you get an extra turn every time you kill a jester. Like cool, who cares? The main problem is if you kill a jester and then a pawn that's far away turns into a jester, then it's hard to like it's hard to get multiple extra turns off of this. I would need to do more testing, but I am going to tentatively put it in C tier. Okay, force feeding. This is definitely C tier. Um, I would say it combos pretty well with stuff. Like if you have unjust decree or you have scope, like that's like kind of a funny combo. It is very useful at the start of the round. Um, so normally what you do on turn one is you move closer to the enemy, and you would reload a shell or regenerate a shell while you're doing that, but you don't have an empty shell slot to regenerate. Um, so like it's not useless because it lets you get value out of your first couple of turns of being able to regenerate some ammo. But it's still this is definitely like a setup card. And if you don't have anything to set it up with, then it's kind of kind of meh. If you're going for a secret ending, then you'll want to have. If you're going with the secret ending and you have the Victoria shotgun and no other way to do damage without emptying your clip, then it's like kind of useful for getting the secret ending, I guess. Um, but yeah, +1 ammo max. Like you can't. That's something. But yeah, this is just filler. Okay, golden aging. I would say so. This makes queens less dangerous. Queens have five. Queens have 6 health, and if you take golden aging, that brings them down to 5. Which, like, okay, usually there's only one queen. Maybe there's 2 queens. So giving 1 to 2, like taking 1 to 2 health off the board, isn't in the grand scheme of things isn't a big deal. It matters if it makes the difference between you being able to one-shot a queen and not being able to one-shot a queen. And okay, so and queens being slowed down, and kings also, but mainly this is for slowing down queens. You can, like, after 10 turns, a queen is slower. Cool. This also applies to pawns that promote to queens. They retroactively get that big speed penalty. If a pawn promotes on turn 30, then into a queen, then it will lose that 3 speed immediately. So it helps protect you against promotion, and I, hmm, I would say this is B tier, like you're just taking it as just a card without any particular synergy. But yeah, if you have exactly 5 damage, then I think this probably goes up to A tier. If you have exactly 5 damage and queens are at exactly 6 health, then the math works out better for this. Um, okay, I'm not gonna bother trying to order these cards in the tier within a given tier. Okay, gradual absolution. This is a hard card to use. Okay, so you can't get this card unless you have at least 2 soul slots. So we'll evaluate this from the perspective of having 2 soul slots. And I would say if you have 2 soul slots, you can use one of the soul cards to like get into position to shoot something that's about to approach and then shoot it. In which case this is kind of like +1 firepower, except a lot worse. Like +1 firepower unconditionally is very good. It's very strong. And if you use up both of your soul cards, you get +2 firepower, which is amazing. And I would say this is very strong if you can afford to waste all your soul cards, obviously. And that's probably in a build where you have a lot of pawns. So I guess in a pawn-focused build, without a lot of other pieces, this is I, hmm, I'm gonna put this in B tier, I guess. Like when I started playing this game, I think I would have put it in C tier. But yeah, I'm putting it in B tier. Okay, so high focus, well, it does give you extra damage. It gives you extra damage and extra accuracy. But even at rank 15, even with high focus, it's hard to like unless you're orthogonally 2 spaces away from something, and you're playing with one of the more accurate shotguns. It's hard to get guaranteed full damage from 2 spaces away. So I would say this is not as good as Holy Gunpowder, for example. Um, but it's still very good. Yeah, as long as you can, like, it's great early in a run because there aren't the number of pieces on the board typically goes up over the course of the round of the game. So like early on, this is great, and then it gets harder and harder to use this, especially with how, especially if like you give pieces more speed as well. But I still think this goes in S tier. I think it's barely in S tier. Holy Gunpowder is also S tier, but it's much more obvious just because of how important damage is. If you have the Solomon, you have 4 damage, and then Holy Gunpowder increases your damage per turn by 25%. And it also makes it easier to one-shot pieces that are approaching. Okay. Yeah, Imperial Shotput. Well, let's evaluate King's Shoulders first. I think King's Shoulders is better than Black Mist. I mean, I would say it's not better than Black Mist, but it's well, I don't know. Okay, it's hard. I don't want to evaluate Imperial Shotput without first evaluating King's Shoulders. I would say this probably goes in A tier, but let's see if I want to move it. Um, okay, so one thing you can do with King's Shoulders is you can pick up a rook that has 8 health or however much health rooks have, I don't even remember, and you just chuck it off the board, and it's gone. And yeah, another thing you can do is you can just pick up a piece and then you can move away from something and then you can throw it later. You can also do 3 damage to something and 3 damage to the thing you picked up. I would say, yeah, I'm gonna put it at the top of A tier, I guess. It's not gonna, well, hmm. I'm really struggling to decide whether I should put this in A tier or S tier. I think this should go, okay, well, what are the use cases? I mean, yeah, if a queen approaches and you don't have enough damage, you just pick up the queen and you just chuck her off the board. Um, or if you've gotten a piece low, you can, well, okay, so one thing you can do is you can pick up a piece while your clip is empty. You have no ammo in your clip, but you can still pick something up, so that gives you some extra flexibility in how you want to do damage. Um, I think, hmm, I'm gonna leave it in A tier. And then Imperial Shot Put, you can, okay, so you get the cannonball and you can pick it up and you can toss it as many times as you want. But the problem with Imperial Shot Put is when you throw it at a piece, it could bounce off in any direction. It could bounce away from you and be hard to pick up again. Um, so I think Imperial Shot Put is not as good as King's Shoulders. I think it's still, I would put it in B tier. Is it better or worse than caltrops? I think it's probably better than caltrops. It gives you cover from rooks and bishops and, queens and stuff like that. So I think it's good, but I would say it's not as good as like some of the other damage cards you have access to. Okay, Kingdom Wealth. I would say if you need the ammo, then this is really good. Um, it only gives the White King +2 health, which might not increase the number of turns it takes for you to kill the White King. And even if it does, on rank 15, there are a lot of pieces on the board, and it can be very difficult to just go after the king anyway. So if you have to clear out enough of the board to stabilize before going after the king, then this gives you just a lot of benefit with an almost meaningless cost. I would put this in A tier. Yeah, okay, Kingly Alms, you can get good grenade value if you are 4 spaces away from the target square, or if you're 3 spaces in one dimension and 2, 1, or 0 spaces in the other dimension. You need that specific set of possible coordinates to be able to get a good grenade that will only bounce once and will also not have a chance of blowing you up. And it will do 2 damage to anything that it hits, which could do a lot more damage than your gun on average. Like if your gun, so okay, so your gun does anywhere from like 1 to 2 damage per turn on average. So for general wave clear, if you don't really care what you hit, then like tossing a grenade is good as long as it hits at least one target, but really it's not worth taking the card if you think you're only going to get hit like 1 to 2 targets. Um, if you don't have enough damage to one-shot a queen, you can try to blow up a queen with a grenade. And as long as the queen is on one of those squares that I just mentioned, you're guaranteed to hit the queen with the explosion. Uh, so I'm going to put this in B tier. I think it's, yeah, I'm going to put it right there. Okay. Yeah, like it's hard to evaluate. I would say grenades can be good, but they're kind of restrictive in how you can use them. Like their use case is limited enough that I kind of want to put this lower. But hmm, you only get 2 of them, and there are a few different cards that just make your grenades worse. Well, there are only 2 cards that make your grenades worse. There's shortage, which makes you lose a grenade, and there's bunker, which makes your grenades do less damage. But bunker, if you kind of like bunker is actually fine. If you take bunker, like okay, this giving you access to bunker is really not a, enough of a consideration that I'm going to use that to affect where I put it on the tier list. Um, but given that, um, no, I'm going to leave it where it is. Okay, majestic censer. I would say having 2 soul slots, it gives you a lot of flexibility, right? You have maybe you get a bishop soul and a knight soul. Like having more options when trying to escape check is better, and you get 1 ammo as well. Um, this seems kind of like unless you have some kind of synergy, like well, you need majestic censer to be able to get gradual absolution, so we're gonna ignore that. But if you have like cannon fodder or sacred crown, then this becomes a lot better. But I think as is, it probably goes into B tier. Am I just gonna put everything in B tier? This is definitely not filler. This is better than the filler tier. Yeah, this definitely deserves to be in B tier. Okay, nightbane. Um, I would say nightbane is pretty good. I think maybe this is also in B tier. Um, let's put it there. Let's put it in the middle of B tier because yeah, being able to do 3 damage. So yeah, if your gun does like 2-ish damage per turn, accounting for all the reloads that you have to do, well, blade doesn't have to do any of that. So that's just 3 damage in 1 turn. That's 3 damage per turn. And yeah, and if a piece is adjacent to you and you want to shoot it, you can usually shoot it. Well, the reason you would probably do that is because there are pieces behind it, and you can just click on the square behind the piece. But yeah, I think this is B tier. It's fine. Like if you weaken something before it approaches you, you can you can blade it, and that's pretty high value. Okay, philanthropy. So grenades aren't super impressive, but if they're free, then yeah, they become really good. I think I think philanthropy is an A tier card. I would probably take it above egotic maelstrom, but not above black plague. Yeah. Okay, so you get an extra grenade. Hmm. Philanthropy does so much damage, and it's easier to like. It's hard when you just have kingly alms. It's hard to get into a good position to throw a grenade because you need to not be in check when you throw the grenade. But you can be in check when you throw a grenade with philanthropy. So actually, I'm gonna put this at the top of A tier. I still don't think it deserves S tier, even though it gives you a free turn. Okay, possessed um, gives you an extra bishop, but gives you 2 soul slots. I don't think you need 3 soul slots, and like unless you have some sort of synergy with this, I would say like technically adding a bishop is detrimental, but I don't think this card deserves to be in D tier. I think if you have 1 soul card going up to 3 soul cards does help quite a bit, but I don't know. I'm gonna put this at the bottom of C tier. I think it's marginally not a liability if you have no synergy. Like if you have Sacred Crown, you should take this. If you have Gradual Absolution, you should take this, although it's hard to get Gradual Absolution without having Possessed because you would have to have Majestic Censer instead. Okay, Presbyopia. I think this is a very strong card. I'm going to put this in A tier because, yeah, queens and bishops are kind of, it's like kind of hard for queens and bishops to do anything to you with this. I think the AI will not move with will prioritize being able to, well, yeah, in general the AI prioritizes any square where they could attack you. So like I think the queen will just move to 2 spaces away from you and then you can just walk up. But like move as close as they can while attacking you. So a queen will move to 2 spaces away and you can walk up to the queen if you want to. I think making queens and bishops a lot less dangerous is very strong. Okay, ravenous rats. I think this also goes in A tier, probably. Now, where does it go in A tier? Does it go at the top of A tier, the bottom of A tier? I think kind of in the middle, I guess. I don't know. This is kind of like all pieces get -1 health, except you have to actually kill the piece to get value out of that. It's weird. Um, but yeah, let's say if you can kill a piece every time you shoot it, then let's say you're playing with the Victoria and you kill a piece every 3 turns, and that's 1 damage every 3 turns to something random. Um, well, no, it's not random because you have some control over what the rats will attack. Hmm. Okay, thinking about rats. Okay, I think rats should actually. Well, I don't know. If you could get multiple rats, then they would be able to clear things out very easily. But hmm. I'm just gonna keep it in the middle of A tier, I guess. Okay, rightful curtsy. I would say is filler. Um, like the 50% chance to knock back isn't great because it's not 100%. Like if a piece is right next to you and you can't one-shot it, then if you're gonna shoot it anyway, then you have a 50% chance of just losing. Um, I could see this being good against pawns, except for the fact that usually pawns have pieces right behind them. It's like not very consistent, and like shooting at pawns for small damage is not really like the best way to stop them from promoting. Usually, you need to like take care of the pieces first. I don't know. Okay, ritual dagger, I would say goes in D tier. It's very hard to take advantage of the fact that the king has less health, and even if you're doing a blade build, the one blade isn't that good, and if you're not doing a blade build, the one blade is like a joke. Um, okay, well, Sacred Crown and Royal Loafers go in S tier, um, for obvious reasons. But yeah, Royal Loafers being able to shoot while moving is great, and the fact that Royal Loafers has powerful synergy with things like high focus and corner despot, and is there anything else? And taunting hop. it has synergy with a lot of stuff, or maybe not that much stuff, but it has enough synergy that that makes it even better. But you already don't even need the synergy. Being able to shoot while moving is great. Sacred Crown, I would say it's not as good as Royal Loafers in a vacuum, but you can kind of do the same thing with it. You use a soul card to move up to an enemy piece, or like to move into a good position against an enemy piece, and then you shoot it. And hopefully you weren't in check in the space that you moved to. But they're both really good. Okay, so continuing with my theme of damage being really good, I'm um, gonna put Sawed Off Justice in S tier as well. Yeah, being able to one-shot stuff is very important. And even though it locks you out of Royal Loafers, it's it's fine. Locking you out of a specific card is not a good enough reason to really change your valuation of a card. Okay. Um, as far as ammo regenerating cards, I think okay, so Small Fry Harvest is either going in it's probably going on the top of A tier. Like cards that give you more ammo aren't really going to go in S tier too often because just damage is more important. But like how many pawns are you going to kill with this? Probably okay, so this gives you +1 ammo max, which already helps. Like how many pawns are you going to kill with this? Like you're probably going to maybe you're going to kill one pawn before you reload for the first time, so you're not going to get value out of that, but you're going to kill maybe 5 other pawns, and that's giving you a total of 6 extra ammo. So it's kind of like Kingdom Wealth without the downside. But you can do even better than that. Like maybe the first pawn that you kill is after you've killed a knight and a bishop. Like you could definitely squeeze out a lot of value from this card. And there are a decent number of white cards that give you more pawns to fight, and that makes this even better. So yeah, A tier. I think Subtle Poison also goes in A tier because it kind of serves a similar purpose as Golden Aging, except it actually does a good job of protecting you from the queen. Like gives the queen -1 health and protects you from the queen. 15 turns of the queen not really being able to do anything to you is great. Even if you can't get a good shot on the queen before then, it still gives you time to get rid of all the knights and bishops, or at least some of them. I think depending on the build, this would either go in S tier or A tier. Um, I think it goes in A tier. If you happen to have the exact breakpoint that would one shot a queen, like if you have 5 damage and you're playing rank 15 and the queen starts with 6 health, then it's probably S tier. But you know, okay, taunting hop, that goes in S tier for sure. Let's bring it up here. Can I like can I make this bigger so they all fit in one row? I don't think so. But yeah, S tier obviously it's so good. It helps you regenerate your ammo. It gives you a lot of ammo regeneration just because every time you hop, that counts as moving. So you either reload your shotgun or you regenerate an ammo. And even ignoring that, it's like if there's a piece next to you, you pretty much can't lose. And you do an extra damage. You do a point of damage when you do this. It just gives you so much value. It gives you extra damage. You could do 1 damage per turn with taunting hop if you get a good setup, and that's yeah. When you compare that to the amount of damage per turn you do with your shotgun, which if you're lucky you do 2 damage per turn with your shotgun, like taunting hop giving you that much damage and all the safety that it gives you also. Yeah, there's just not much to say about that. Okay, moat does a really good job. It does what it does very well. It protects you from encroaching bishops and queens. And I'm gonna put this in S tier. Where exactly should it go in S tier? I think it should go, I don't know. I think it's going to go below all of like the really powerful damage cards and above everything else. I don't know. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about the ordering. Um, anyway, yeah, moat is just really good. So yeah, obviously it slows down bishops and queens, but it also, like if a queen wants to go into the moat, there's usually only one or two squares where the queen can approach, go into the moat, so you can move to like a knight's distance away from one of the spots where the queen could go into the moat. So it makes queens less dangerous and it gives you like an extra opportunity to shoot at them. The downside, of course, is that when you use soul cards, you also have to deal with the moat, unless you're using a night soul. Okay, undercover mission. It's not one of those cards you can count on to like carry you to victory, unless you have mobility with stuff like Sacred Crown or this next card, Unfaithful Steed. It's like you would want synergy for this to be good, but if you don't have any synergy, I would say, oh, this is hard to evaluate. I'm gonna put it in B tier. If you don't have any synergy, okay, where does it go? Is it high B or low B? I think it's high B. Yeah, high B tier. Because like if you're counting on this winning the run for you, there could be a floor where this is on the sixth rank and you can't get to it easily, and or you just can't get to it at all. You could just very easily lose to this card. Um, if you're treating it like an S or A tier card. Um, but you can make it really good by giving yourself extra mobility. Although there aren't that many cards that do that. I don't know. It gives you an extra turn when you step on it, but you still have to make it to the waypoint. If you're like spending your last soul card to get to the waypoint, then you can just like play yourself very easily. So yeah, that's gonna be a B tier. You need synergy for this to be higher than B. Okay, Unfaithful Steed. I would say this is A tier. Um, I don't know exactly where I should put this. Let's put it in the middle. Let's put it like mid to high A tier. Whatever. Um, it helps you get into the action very early in the round. Like usually, if you only have three range, you'll probably be walking forward two squares before you start shooting. So already, Unfaithful Steed is saving you a turn, and it also makes you a lot safer from just generally getting attacked. Um, I'm gonna put it up here. Whatever. It also synergizes pretty well with a lot of stuff. Well, it mainly with Waypoint, yeah, with Undercover Mission and Unholy Call. But I guess that's not enough synergy for me to really use that to determine to like affect where I'm putting it. Okay, Unholy Call. I would say I would say this is arguably S tier. Um, you do have to invest a lot of turns potentially into moving onto the waypoints to get the firepower. You know what? I'm putting it in A tier. It's like sometimes you just can't get the firepower, and in that case, you're just getting one or two extra turns over the course of the level, which is still good. Yeah, which is really good. But I would say it's not as good as the S tier cards. Like if you don't have enough damage to one shot something, you could put yourself in a bad spot if you're counting on it. But the thing is, if you don't have any other damage options, you should take it, which is why the other damage options are S tier and this is A tier. Okay, Unjust Decree. Uh, so you'd think that this would be really good with the Richard, whichever one starts with three shells in the clip, but it also takes away one firepower. So It's like you kind of like none of the shotguns really start off in a good enough spot where you'd want this. I think maybe with the Solomon, you would take it because your right click does 6 damage, but it also makes your gun eat a lot more ammo. Uh, so without, if you don't get any more, like, if you don't get any more extra barrel related boosts or extra firepower or extra ammo regen, then you can't really justify taking this. Would I say it's actively detrimental? I mean, if you're playing a build where this is actively detrimental, you probably don't need a tier list to tell you that it's bad. So let's put it in C tier because, well, okay. So you're not going to get offered this if you're playing the Victoria. It's like I don't know. Okay, I think it deserves to be in the I think it deserves to be higher in C tier. It's not the bottom of C tier. Actually, no, we're going to put it in B tier. It's like, yeah, with the Solomon, you do 6 damage with a right click with this, and that's pretty good. And it only costs you 2 shells. Like damage is so important that burst damage. Okay, so this gives you burst damage, and it takes away your like damage per turn, I guess. If you're actually does it. Um, so let's say you double tap. Okay, let's say you have the Solomon and you double tap, then you do 6 damage in 1 turn. Then you reload and regenerate 2 bullets. So that costs you 4 turns, and you've done 6 damage. But if you didn't take that and you instead, or yeah, so 6 damage in 4 turns, that's 1.5 damage per turn. But if you didn't take that and you instead just if took a blank card, I guess, just humor me here, then you would shoot 2 times and then you would, reload, regenerate, regenerate. So in 5 turns, you would have done 8 damage, which is 1.6. So your damage per turn is actually slightly higher with the without it, assuming you have to regenerate the ammo afterwards. But if you have a big enough ammo bank to work with, then it's just you know double tap reload, and in 2 turns you've done 6 damage. Whereas so 3 damage per turn. But with just the Solomon, you shoot twice and then you reload. So you've done 8 damage in 3 turns, which is slightly less than 3 damage per turn. So mathematically, I guess unjust decree, you get a little more damage per turn until you run out of ammo, and then you get a little less. Okay. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to put it in B tier. Okay, Wand of Downpour, this is filler. It's just random damage, and you can't really count on it doing anything. You're like, I sure hope it hits this queen that's right next to me for one, and then it doesn't. And then you're just like, okay, well, what a waste of a card. I would put it in D if there was anything that was actually potentially detrimental about it. Okay, Wand of Frenzy goes in S tier. It only gives you ammo, but it also reloads your gun. So that extra action economy, like usually, I would say Wand of Frenzy is better than most other ammo related options. Like I would say Kingdom Wealth gives you +6 ammo, and I think with the Victoria at rank 15, you start with 5 ammo. So that would make Kingdom Wealth slightly better than Wand of Frenzy in that regard, but you can shoot and then you can click Wand of Frenzy and then you can shoot again. That's very powerful. Like if a queen has 6 health and you do 5 damage, and you're like, oh, I gotta shoot at that queen right before she approaches. You shoot the queen, you hit her for 1, and then you can shoot again next turn because wands are free action. So I think that's S tier. Wand of Gust, it's a lot harder to calculate the value of pushing all enemy pieces up one square, but I'm also going to put it in S tier. I think most of the wands are really good in this game. Um, so Wand of Gust stops you from getting destroyed by pawns. It gives you, so if it takes 5 turns for a pawn to move down, so it gives you, this push gives you 5 extra turns before pawns start promoting, and that's like one of the big ways that you lose in this game. So, yep, I would say I would say that's an easy S tier. It's at the bottom of S tier. You would rather take damage cards and like stuff that can give you unlimited free turns and just generically high value stuff. But Wand of Gust is really good, and it can get you out of check. So it serves a double purpose of delaying pawns, and it like gets you out of check once. Okay, Wand of Hypnosis. I haven't used this very much either. Um, I feel like this could be really good because a piece is attacking you and then you hypnotize it and move it out of the way. Maybe two pieces are attacking you. You move one of them out of the way and you shoot the other. Um, but I don't see that being worthwhile enough. It's like if I compare that to Wand of Gus, it's like Wand of Gus kind of does a similar thing in terms of how safe it keeps you, but it also delays all of the pawns by 5 turns. It's like I think Hypnosis would be A tier. I'm going to put it at the bottom of A tier. Okay. Wand of Wings, I think Wand of Wings, like, unless you're going for a build where you're trying to like chase down the king very early, then Wand of Wings isn't like amazing, but I still think it's gonna go in the top of A tier. It's a get out of jail free card. Get out of jail free cards are great. I think, yeah. Hmm. I don't know. Okay, Wand of Wrath. What do? You do firepower damage to one target that's not a king. Well, if you have enough damage to one-shot something, then it's amazing. And if you don't have enough damage to one-shot something, then you want to click the Wand of Wrath and then shoot it. Like if a queen approaches you and you don't have enough damage, then you do double your attack damage to the queen. So yeah, this also goes in S tier, I think. And if you have enough damage, so one great thing about Wand of Wrath is that you can combo it with stuff like corner despot and high focus. You can also combo it with like gradual absolution. I don't know, anything where you kind of have flexibility in terms of like your damage value fluctuates. You can just use it when you have more damage. Um, it's a funny synergy with cannon fodder. But yeah, I think like you want to have enough damage to one shot a queen. And if you do have enough damage to one shot a queen, then it's really good. And if you don't, then it's still really good. Okay, welcome gifts. Um, yeah, +4 damage for 2 or 3 shots. I think if you have the Victoria, you should not take this, or you should treat it as like B or C tier. If what I what the okay, whatever to pretend. Okay, I'm gonna just hold on to it then. But yeah, like don't take this on the Victoria. It's like you don't need me to tell you that. I mean, unless it's up against something, whatever. It's not great on the Victoria, but it's not detrimental. So you might as well take it if you're not thrilled with the other option either. But yeah, let's say you're playing the Solomon, you have 2 shots with this that adds 8 damage for free. Assuming you can get good shots off. The problem with like the thing is it's worth a little bit less than that because you need to kind of wait until you can line up a good shot at the start of the round. If you can just start shooting immediate, like normally you want to start shooting the moment you have a reason of like an okay shot, and then you start getting value out of your ammo regen. Okay, if you have 2 shells in your clip, then I would say this is B tier. And if you have 3 shells in your clip, then it's A tier. I'm going to just assume you have 2 because that's like a compromise between, on average you have about 2 shells, unless you're just like a Victoria gamer, in which case, I don't know, probably don't take this card. Okay, well, I honestly have no idea if I was just like talking out of my rear end when I was making this entire tier list. So you know what I'm going to do? On my next game, I'm going to consult the tier list every time. I don't know. This is my tier list. Uh, if you have opinions on on what cards are not in the place they should be, please feel free to chime in. I mean, of course, you're free to do that anyway, even if I don't tell you that you're free. Okay, you know what? That's the end of the video. See you next time.